Welcome back. Still Breakfast Central on April Fool's Day. I just can't get it out of my mouth. 1st of April.
It's 1st of April 2021. It's not April's Fool's Day.
Just in case somebody still wants to prank you this morning, tell them we've already watched Breakfast Central. Don't prank off.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Yes.
All right. Let's go straight to it. And yesterday, we'll continue from our discussion of yesterday, all about pink tax or tampon tax.
Yeah, network didn't let us have a proper conversation, so we're getting into it now. It's been estimated that 1 in 10 girls in Africa miss school because of menstruation. This is part of what is known as period poverty. Now, period poverty is not far-fetched from West Africa to East Africa and across the continent. Globally, more than 800 million women and girls menstruate each day, yet 500 million of them have no access to sanitary pads.
Well, about 3.4% of women in African prisons are forced to go through their monthly periods without sanitary wares, and women and girls with special needs and disabilities, which is disproportionately do not have the access to affordable pads. Likewise, those in conflict zones around the northeast Nigeria.
The aftermath of natural disasters also make it more difficult for women and girls to access sanitary products to manage their period. Now, the lack of affordable sanitary products has resultant effects on women and girls' health, power dynamics in relationships, and the height of it all is that it leads to increase in gender inequality.
All right, but one African country is joining those who are getting rid of that, what is known as pink tax or the tampon tax. Now, women and girls in Namibia will no longer have to be charged a luxury tax rate of 15% when it comes to value-added tax on sanitary products. And this is because the Namibian government has eliminated the VAT on sanitary products. This one comes weeks after Namibia's Deputy Minister of Information, that's Emma Theophilos, tabled a motion that tax on sanitary products be removed for at least and reduced by 3%. Well, joining us this morning to talk about is from Namibia is none other than Ndiilo Nthengwe, who we had yesterday. She's an advocate and a communications officer and the country coordinator of International Youth Alliance for Family Planning. Ndiilo, good morning. Welcome back to Breakfast Central.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me again.
All right, morning.
Good to see you. Research across the continent has found that women and girls have resorted to using all kinds of things that are unhygienic during their period. Some have even resorted to having sex to get money to buy sanitary products. There is a new law now. Tell us the reality in Namibia and how important this law is.
Thank you so much. I think it's so important that we recognize that this is really a broader conversation on reproductive justice and bodily autonomy and bodily integrity. As we know that so many adolescent girls, young women and gender diverse persons they do not have the same socioeconomic agency and therefore do not have access to sanitary products or cannot afford sanitary products. And I think also the larger conversation is when we're talking about reproductive justice, with young girls using other alternatives for their sanitary products, it's the same conversation as abortions and the way that young girls also go for backdoor abortions, etc. So the reaction right now is that we're still looking at this specific law settling in only by next year. But the importance then is that government makes it so much more aware in all corners of the country that this specific product is now much more affordable. And I think the long-term conversation is really about getting it to be free.
All right. Talking about getting it to be free, because Namibia is the latest African country to abolish tax on sanitary products. This is following the likes of Kenya, Zambia, Rwanda, and South Africa. The conversation for many, has moved beyond scrapping it, the tax, making it free and accessible for women and girls. But, and we need to ask you this, Ndiilo, what you think about is that there are those who say that many African countries can't afford to make it completely free. What do you make of that?
I think it's something that is almost very, very, it's laughable, because we are looking at also how many countries are in corruption scandals and the many ways that governments underutilize and even at most cases return funds to treasury. So that speaks a lot about prioritization, right? And really also making sure that on top of the goals, what is those long-term goals of the sustainable development goals that governments have also adopted in their institutions and in their constitutions, is that gender equality is at the front of that. And so we cannot say that there is no money or that they cannot afford to do that when we are looking really at gender equality. And that really looks at making sure that there is economic justice, there is reproductive justice, and that every girl and young woman and gender diverse person also enjoys the same liberties and freedoms as everybody else. So if that is also at the front of our government's priority, then equally that trickles down to sanitary products and the affordability thereof, and all other kinds of reproductive justice outcomes with that.
Would you be among those who support calls that the AU should make it mandatory for a total eradication of any sort of tax on sanitary products, considering the fact that poor access to quality products might have long-term effect on women and girls?
Definitely. So that is two-layered, right? Because the one part is that you want to make sure that the sanitary products are good quality, irrespective of whether or not they are free. But on the other side is the long-term goal should be that there should be a total eradication on the pricing so that it is much more affordable. We're talking about long-term gender equality. We are talking about access to an education that is also implicated in the fact that some girls and some women cannot afford and therefore they cannot go to school. We are looking also at broader conversations like access to water, hygiene, all of that really makes sure that it encompasses the whole broader conversation as I was speaking to on reproductive justice. So it is a step forward that they can do, and they can subsidize it with something else for any kind of income, because for the longest time this has not been prioritized, and hence this is why so many adolescent girls and young women and gender diverse persons do not have access to an education, or they are delayed, they are behind with so many other things. And so if this is the first step in that right direction, that radical step, then they should do so.
All right, Ndiilo. This brings us back to one of the themes of this topic, which is actually period poverty in Africa for women and girls. It's not just lawmakers who often shy away from talking about menstruation. It is a sensitive topic, and raising concerns about women's menstrual health in Parliament across Africa. Our societies still find it a bit hard to talk about these issues, which leads to stigma, lack of education, and shame, and sometimes issues being unaddressed. Now, how do we, take this from being a, hush-hush conversation and then being confronted and open? Perhaps that might even lead to this, removal of tax on sanitary products.
Definitely, and I think that really speaks to bringing more awareness. And I think awareness has been there. Awareness has already trickled into communities. And we really need to look at how to bring in more intersectional awareness, targeting misogyny that often fuels this stigma and the prejudice around especially women's health. And that also leads to SGBV and all other sorts of social ills that we currently are subjected to as women and gender diverse persons. So it really speaks to dismantling and that awareness coming into communities. But I wanted to also say that it's important to recognize how all of these issues are very, very intersectional. When we look at economic justice, just recently from the Namibian Human Development Report, it really gave us so many statistics about the status of women's economic productivity or inclusion in our economy. And already that gave the information, or that informed us that, again, women are not empowered on so many other levels. So when we're talking about awareness, it has to be intersectional, because the empowerment, or the disempowerment rather, is so layered. And so we cannot afford to just have one conversation without including all the others.
All right. Definitely. The issue around women's health is a continuous one. Time is not our friend. We just say thank you very much, Ndiilo, for joining us and sharing your thoughts with us.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the next conversations.
Oh yes, so are we. So are we,
Yeah,
definitely.
lots going on in Namibia, yes, and you've just given us quite a context about it. And once the law is passed and goes to a next phase, we'll clearly have you back on the program to tell us, how women and girls have embraced it in the country, and perhaps what the men, are talking about it, what they're saying, how they feel about it all. Well, thank you very much once again, Ndiilo.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good day.